Hello everybody, and welcome to Cobcast, where I tell you a different story every week. And I gotta go ahead and say it, I know it's been over a week, so don't mind me there. But the one I have to tell you today is actually, it's pretty funny, but it's also terrible. But, you know, shit happens, right? How do I even go into the intro on this? Let's call this one Stabbed in the Eye, because that's basically what it boils down to. So I'm about 18 years old. Actually, I was 18 because of the place I was working at the time. I had a different car, and I drove out into the woods to hang out with my buddies on the weekends and such. And, you know, having campfires. We were out on the river. Me and two other people that night, just doing stuff that 18-year-olds would do, right? Partying out on the river, having a fire, having a good old time. The thing is, it was a Sunday, and we were out pretty late, and I had to work the next morning at 8 o'clock in the morning. And excuse me, it's freaking hot in here, so if you see me wiping sweat, it's like I'm sitting next to a campfire. And also, this story is pretty messed up. And it's not hard to talk about. It's more of embarrassing, I suppose. Well, while we're having this fire, we were out there for 5 or 6 hours. And we've had to gather a lot of firewood, obviously, to have a big old fire out there. Because, you know, when you're young, you want to make the fire as big as you can. And that's going to require a lot of firewood. Usually on the river, on the sandbars, there's going to be plenty of driftwood and stuff along the edges. But that stuff burns, it's like spongy, usually when it dries out. If it's been in the water for a long time, it's waterlogged. So it breaks real easy and it burns real fast, but it does burn hot though. Unless you get some of the stuff that's buried and it's kind of wet where it's buried in, and that's not really burnable. So we just kind of go into the log jams or wherever stuff is kind of piled up and just grab whatever you can. That's what everybody does on the river, right? If you don't, who would bring their own firewood to the river when there's firewood everywhere? There's people that buy split wood and take it out there when there's wood everywhere. I understand if you were going to cook on it, maybe having something different, but you could also just bring a bag of charcoal, I suppose. And we're just gathering wood, having this massive fire, and everything's good, having a good old time. I'm kind of watching the clock thinking, alright, well, we have like 2 more hours, because after that I have about 5 hours, probably closer to 4 hours of sleep after we get off of the river, because we just pulled up and parked in my car. We're at a spot that we know the people that own it, and there's a spot where we'd all go party and stuff. So since, you know, we knew the people, we didn't have to canoe or anything. Basically all we did was park, get out, walk down to the river. And so that made it easy to leave. So just grab whatever we had that, you know, pick up our trash, clean up, put the fire out. That's important. And that was it, really. So since I had to leave, I'm like, okay, well, we got this much time left, and let's build up the fire big again. One more last shebang. So me and the 2 other buddies I was with, we kind of burned everything that was available in the immediate vicinity. So we had to kind of walk up onto the embankment where all the trees were and look for fallen branches and dead wood that was able to be burned, and dragging it back. When you're doing all that, you can't just drag one branch at a time unless it's a big long one that, you know, you can take back and then break it up. But some of the pieces are just easier to break where you're at and put them in bundles and then carry the bundles back. I don't know why I'm over explaining that, because anybody that's been out on the river or out in the woods would understand that. But we got 3 people, me and 2 others, grabbing as much that we can, making these bundles, and then just trying to carry it down to have one big old fire. And everybody perfectly fine, just with our flashlights, grabbing some wood, and we had this one log, well, I had chosen a log to break some of it upon, because not everything up there was as dry and waterlogged as what was down on the river itself. So some of it was recently dried and fallen. Couldn't just like snap it with your knee. So I would prop them up on this log. Here's my prop for today. Say this is a stick. Prop it up on the log. You step on it here, it breaks, and then you throw it into a pile. So I was grabbing all these sticks that were kind of annoyingly long to carry, and they couldn't snap easily, so I'd prop them there, break them, pile them, drag them back once I had enough. And that's what we were all pretty much doing for the most part. And everything was just normal. We're gathering firewood, right? Watching out for spiders in the trees. Well, I had this one branch that was just, I'm going to grab it. It was about yay big. I don't know, maybe a little smaller, maybe golf ball sized. Broken on both ends. And it was just a little bit longer than what I was putting in the pile. It was something that I could break. The problem was, this log was shaped about like this. It was curved. And when I put this against the log that I was going to snap it on, when I stepped on it with my foot, it was just touching the ground. So there was no leverage for it to actually break. Where that went bad was, at the time, I had a bright idea to invert it this way, stick this end. I specifically remember I was standing with it in front of me and this was on the right. And I stuck it in the dirt and then propped it up. Oh, about 3/4 of the way up. Just a good spot in order to hit it here and have it snap. Well, the way physics work, when you have something supporting it here and it's curved like that, when you break it, this part is going to slingshot. And me not thinking, just in the dark, or just using a flashlight, just trying to snap this piece, I stomp on this piece of wood, this stick, branch, whatever you want to call it, and like it had been broken at the end, so it was all jagged. It slingshotted up, hit me directly in my left eye. And I don't mean it just went ow. I mean it knocked me on the ground. And I couldn't see for, well, even past after I got home. But we were just still out there trying to do our thing, and I was trying not to complain, but my eyes swollen shut. And I was trying to ignore it being a problem. And I knew with who I was working with the next day, if they saw my eye, they'd say, hey man, go take care of that. But I still had to show up to work. And I get in my car after I wake up, after taking a big old nap, well, like 4-hour nap. And I'm heading down the road, and I passed by one of my friend's house that was with us. And he was with a couple other friends, and as I'm pulling by their house, they're standing outside. They're like, hey, what's up? What's up? And I'm Cobb, right? That's why it's Cobcast. They're like, what's up, Cobb? So I pull over, roll down my window. I'm like, oh, I'm on my way to work. I gotta go. I don't want to be late. And they walked up to my car and they're like, dude, you're going to work? You need to go to the hospital. And I was like, no, I'm going to go to work and then show them that my eye was swollen shut and then had like yellow pus just crusted around it, dripping down my face. It was all hardened and my eye would not open. And it really, the thing is, like, it hurt, but the eyes are weird. Like, you could have eye pain from injury and you get over it pretty quickly. It might give you a headache, but I guess it depends on the person, really. But I was just trying to drive with one eye, get there, and then say, hey, I gotta go to the eye doctor or something. And I went to a clinic that specializes in eyes. And they got my eye open, and they numbed it and did everything they can, and they washed it out, which And that was a lot less painful than the actual injury, but, you know, that's still very, very uncomfortable. And they gave me some steroid eye drops and stuff, but they checked my eyesight, and at the time, obviously, I scratched it up pretty good. Oh yeah, there's some wood chips in there. And I scratched it up pretty good, but I could still see. And I took care of it for a while. It healed up normally. Everything was fine. And I started to notice, probably not till about a month after that injury, that in this eye, the color's orange. It's mostly red, but colors orange, darker orange, red, and then some pinks all look the same. And turns out there is color blindness that you can get from eye injury. They said the density of my eye was over double, just barely, like 2.1 times this eye, because they probed my eyes. And they said it was pretty, it could have been worse, but like I wasn't close to popping my eye. I don't know how to explain it, like deflating it. I wasn't that close, but it was bad. And now, if I close this eye, everything, as most people that are not colorblind can perceive it as normal. But if I close this eye, yeah, oranges look yellow, reds look red for the most part. Depends on the tone of the orange. My phone case looks pink, which it's red, but I can tell that because I have this eye that can see those colors. So it really doesn't affect me, but it is something I felt like telling you guys about. Kind of an interesting story. Kind of sucks that I did that, but I learned my lesson. Don't prop up a stick like this, step on it here, because like I said, what it will do is slingshot it. And, well, just don't do that, right? It's really all I got for this one. So, like I said, it's not really anything detrimental to me. It's kind of interesting, but I'll never forget it. I'll tell you that much. Will not forget that. Anyways, thanks for watching. I'll have another video up for you guys next week. Thank you so much.